Greetings. For my video today, I'd like to share a topic of prayer once more. Most members of our church family have been sharing different topics over the past few weeks to encourage our members, our community, and our neighbors. You've heard the statement that we're all in this together. Well, we definitely are all in this together. And I realize some people have differing opinions about that. But one thing I've learned as we've been isolating ourselves from each other is that as we isolate ourselves from our churches, social gatherings, family to a degree, restaurants, I've discovered that we're more social than we think we are, even those of us who don't feel very social at all. What we've attempted to do through these videos is to connect with our community and share some of these stories. My wife and I were watching Dr. E. Stanley Jones the other day, and part of his sermon dealt with the triangle of prayer. Everybody knows that a triangle has 3 points. Math people like the isosceles triangle, which has 3 equal sides. But I prefer the 90-degree triangle. In fact, I use it often in carpentry as my speed square. The speed square triangle has 3 points. 2 sides are equal, 1 side is not. Well, it was a rather simple process that Dr. Stanley Jones mentioned, and it involved the fact that when we pray, we're the bottom part of that triangle on 1 point. And when we pray for someone or something, that's the other bottom part of the triangle. But when we pray, and he used the example of his arm, he said when we pray for another person, we pray to God. So God is the pinnacle of our triangle. And when we pray, God in his own time answers that prayer in regards to another person, in regards to an object or something that we've been praying about. And as a result of that prayer being answered, and God will answer our prayers in his time, we are then blessed. So the triangle goes from us petitioning God through prayer, God answering our prayer in his time, and we receiving the blessing back again, as well as the person who we were praying for, or the item that we were praying for. As I thought about that over a little bit of time, I thought of the honeybee. It too is a social creature, very social creature, highly complex in its social order. However, during the winter months, it is isolated, just like we've been lately. But it's isolated for months on end, and it never leaves the hive. For all of winter, when the temperature is cold, it stays inside the hive. As Larry mentioned in a previous video, one day we will be released from this crisis, and watch out. Well, the bee is also released from its crisis, if you will, when the weather warms. Flowers begin to bloom. It begins its flight looking for pollen and nectar. Now think back to the triangle of prayer for a second, and stay with me. The hive, us, sees the sun. In our case, it's the S-O-N. And as a result, we leave the hive, or leave our isolation, and pray for the release of bondage, which is sin. With the honeybee, we are blessed with the fact that once it leaves the hive, gathers nectar, and comes back to the hive, it produces honey. In a bee's lifetime, it produces about a half a teaspoon of honey. It only lives about 6 weeks in the summer. But I want you to examine that bee for a moment. The bee leaves the hive because of the warming of the sun, as Jesus warms our heart. The bee looks for something to do. In this case, we're discussing prayer. It could be service in the church, the community. It could be a variety of things, whatever Christ puts on your heart. Once the bee finds the nectar, they bring it back to the hive. But here is the important part relevant to the bee. They don't keep it a secret. They tell the other bees in the hive where the nectar is that they just found. They communicated so that the entire hive can go out and enjoy that nectar and bring it back for the community within the hive. So, to reiterate again, the hive, or us, inspired by the Son, or Jesus, gather nectar, or spread the word and pray for others, and are blessed when our prayers are answered, or the bees are blessed when they get their honey. Something to consider this week. This crisis will end, but through it and forevermore, the power of prayer stands strong.